8 engineers, 10 months of work. That was the cost of one chip design task at Nvidia, until this year. In 2026, Nvidia's own chief scientist confirmed that the same task is now completed overnight by a single GPU, with no human engineers in the room. Let that land for a moment. 8 humans, 10 months, replaced by one machine, one night. That is not a prediction. That is a documented, verified fact from inside one of the most powerful technology companies on the planet. And here's what the headlines are not telling you. This is not about chip design. Chip design is just the example they chose to show you. The Nvidia Rubin platform, launched at CES 2026 and now shipping to AWS, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Azure, is not just a faster processor. It is infrastructure for an entirely new category of intelligence. Always-on AI factories that continuously convert power, silicon, and data into decisions, analysis, content, code, and automation at a scale and speed that makes the previous generation of AI look like a pocket calculator. Goldman Sachs estimated that roughly 300 million jobs globally are exposed to some form of AI automation. Their own analysis notes that most exposed roles face partial automation of 25 to 50% of tasks. And a March 2026 Goldman analysis estimated AI shaved roughly 16,000 jobs per month off US payroll growth. 16,000 every month, already happening. The question this briefing is designed to answer is not whether your job is at risk. That question has already been answered. The question is, what does the architect do about it? Stay until the final coordinate, because the answer is not what most people expect, and it is more executable than anything the mainstream conversation is offering. Before we declassify the response strategy, let us understand exactly what Nvidia Rubin changes, and why this time is structurally different from previous waves of automation. Every major wave of automation in history followed the same pattern. It eliminated repetitive, physical, or low-skill tasks first. Factory floors, agricultural labor, assembly lines. The educated class watched from a safe distance and called it progress. Nvidia Rubin changes that pattern. The Vera Rubin platform is engineered specifically for agentic AI. AI that does not just respond to prompts, but reasons, plans, executes multi-step workflows, calls external tools, and operates continuously without human instruction. Bain & Company, in their analysis of GTC 2026, stated it clearly. Use cases in real-time decision-making, customer interaction, and operational automation that did not pencil out 6 months ago deserve a fresh look. Translation: the tasks that previously required a human professional, analysis, customer management, operational decisions, content production, research, code, are now economically viable to automate at scale. This is the first automation wave that hits the white-collar professional directly, not the factory floor, the office floor. Anthropic's own CEO, Dario Amodei, warned that AI-enabled automation could trigger what he called a white-collar bloodbath, potentially eliminating up to 50% of entry-level office jobs. And Jensen Huang himself confirmed on May 4th, 2026, at the Milken Institute, that AI is creating an enormous number of jobs. But the important word in that sentence is creating new jobs, not preserving old ones. The architect does not wait to find out which category their current role falls into. The architect repositions before the wave arrives. Here is how. Response Coordinate 1. Become the operator, not the operated. The single most dangerous position in the 2026 economy is being a high-skill professional who delivers a service that AI can now deliver faster, cheaper, and without taking a lunch break. graphic designers who produce graphics, writers who produce articles, analysts who produce reports, coders who produce functions, customer service professionals who answer tickets. These are not low-skill roles. They are roles where the deliverable itself has become automatable. And when the deliverable is automatable, the human delivering it is exposed. The architect understands one fundamental distinction that changes everything. There is a difference between being a service deliverer and being a system builder. A service deliverer produces outputs. An architect builds the systems that produce outputs, and then steps back and lets the system run. Nvidia Rubin makes AI systems faster and cheaper to operate. That is a problem for service deliverers. It is an enormous opportunity for system builders. Because somebody has to design those systems. Somebody has to understand the business context, identify the highest value workflow to automate, build the logic architecture, and ensure the output meets the standard the client demands. That somebody is not the AI. That somebody is the architect. The first move is to audit your current role honestly. Ask yourself this question: am I producing a deliverable, or am I designing a system that produces deliverables? If the answer is the former, your repositioning starts today. Response Coordinate 2. Own the infrastructure layer. Here's the intelligence that most commentary on AI and jobs completely misses. Nvidia raised its AI chip demand outlook to $1 trillion through 2027. That number is not theoretical. It is driven by real deployment of real infrastructure across AWS, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure, and dozens of cloud partners who are all building on Vera Rubin right now. $1 trillion of infrastructure. And the vast majority of organizations deploying it have no internal capability to extract value from it. McKinsey projected the US alone will need an additional 130,000 electricians and 240,000 construction laborers for AI infrastructure build-out through 2030. Those are physical infrastructure roles. But the digital infrastructure layer has an equally massive talent shortage that nobody is talking about. The people who can take Nvidia-powered AI infrastructure and translate it into operational business value, workflow automation, agentic pipeline design, data architecture, enterprise deployment, are in critically short supply relative to demand. This is your sovereign node. Not building the chips, not owning the data centers, but owning the layer between the infrastructure and the business outcome. The translation layer, the implementation layer, the intelligence layer. Platforms like Make.com, N8N, and the emerging agentic frameworks being built on top of openclaw, Nvidia's own open source agentic framework that exploded in popularity in early 2026, do not require you to be a machine learning engineer to deploy. They require you to understand the business problem, design the solution logic, and build a system that consistently delivers the outcome the client needs. That is not a technology skill. That is a sovereign intelligence skill. And Nvidia just made it worth more than it has ever been. Response Coordinate 3. Convert fear into an audience asset. Here is a counterintuitive move that most people miss entirely. The same fear that Nvidia's Rubin platform is creating in the labor market is simultaneously creating an enormous and highly motivated audience for anyone who can provide clarity, strategy, and executable guidance on how to navigate it. Consider the data. Goldman Sachs says 300 million jobs are exposed. The World Economic Forum projects 92 million roles displaced by 2030. Microsoft's own AI lead stated that AI can replace every white-collar job within 18 months. Every one of those 300 million workers is a potential viewer, a potential subscriber, a potential customer. The content arbitrage node we have covered in previous briefings takes on a completely different dimension when you apply it to this specific moment. An architect who positions themselves as the guide through the AI disruption, not a fearmonger, but a precise, data-backed intelligence provider who helps professionals understand their exposure and take specific repositioning steps, has access to one of the largest motivated audiences ever assembled on a single platform. YouTube's algorithm is already surfacing this content to warm audiences. Established channels covering Nvidia, AI disruption, and career strategy are already suggesting content from channels like yours to their viewers. The window to establish authority in this specific niche, sovereign AI career and income strategy, is not yet crowded. The mainstream channels are covering the fear. Very few are covering the execution. That gap is your distribution node. The architect who builds an audience around this specific intelligence briefing format is building a compounding asset that Nvidia Rubin cannot automate, because it requires genuine human judgment, a sovereign worldview, and the trust of a community that chose you specifically. Your first move in this coordinate: identify the single most painful question your target audience is asking about AI and their career right now. Build your next transmission around a precise, executable answer to that specific question. Audience is not built on information. It is built on relief. Response coordinate 4. Build your anti-displacement stack. Let us zoom into the most practical layer of this briefing. The professionals who will navigate the Rubin era successfully are not the ones who fight the technology or the ones who blindly trust it. They are the ones who build what we will call an anti-displacement stack, a personal architecture of income, skills, and assets that becomes more valuable as AI gets more capable, not less. Here's what that stack looks like in practice. Layer 1. A sovereign skill that sits at the intersection of AI capability and human judgment. Automation consulting, prompt engineering and workflow design, AI translation inside organizations. These are the skills the Rubin era is specifically creating demand for, not despite AI, because of it. Layer 2. A digital asset that generates income without your direct time. A newsletter, a digital product, a specialized AI workflow packaged and sold as a solution, something that runs on its own logic while you sleep. Nvidia Rubin will make the tools to build these assets faster and cheaper to operate. That is a tailwind for the architect who has already built them. Layer 3. An audience that belongs to you, not a platform that belongs to a corporation. Your email list, your community, your direct channel to the people who trust your intelligence. When platforms change their algorithms, and they will, the architect with a sovereign audience list is insulated from the disruption in a way that a platform-dependent creator never can be. Layer 4. Multiple income nodes that do not all depend on the same source. Employment income, consulting income, digital product income, content income. When Nvidia Rubin makes one of those nodes easier to replace, and it will eventually, the architect has 3 others running simultaneously. The anti-displacement stack is not a theory. It is the only logical response to an infrastructure shift of this magnitude. And the window to build it is now, before Rubin-powered agentic AI becomes the operational standard across every industry simultaneously. Let us read the full map. Nvidia's Rubin platform is not a chip upgrade. It is the infrastructure layer of an economy that is being rebuilt around agentic AI. The organizations that have already committed to deploying it, Microsoft, AWS, Google Cloud, are not doing so to maintain the current workforce structure. They are doing so to replace the most expensive parts of it with systems that run continuously at a fraction of the cost. The question of whether this affects your current role is no longer the right question. The right question is which of the 4 response coordinates you are activating first. Coordinate 1. Become the system builder, not the service deliverer. Coordinate 2. Own the infrastructure translation layer that Rubin is making worth more every day. Coordinate 3. Convert the fear in the market into an audience asset that compounds as disruption accelerates. Coordinate 4. Build your anti-displacement stack before the agentic standard becomes operational across your industry. The architects who move in the next 90 days will look back on this moment as the most important decision point of their financial lives. The ones who wait will look back on it differently. Drop a comment below. Tell me which coordinate you are activating first. System builder, infrastructure layer, audience asset, anti-displacement stack. One word: public commitment. We hold you to it. If this briefing gave you the intelligence to act, not to worry, not to speculate, but to act, subscribe. Every week on this channel, we decode the infrastructure of the new economy and hand the architect community the precise tools to build inside it. Share this transmission with one professional in your network who is still waiting for someone to give them a clear map. They have been waiting long enough. The Rubin era is here. The window is open. Deploy your coordinate. Transmission concluded.